All right, so thank you all so much for having me join you all. This is my first time out here, my first time coming out to the Canal Corridor Congress, so it's good to be here. What I also want to say is that I'm right before lunch, so what is this, only 60 minutes for my presentation, is it? All right, so we'll keep going. So why a National Historical Park for Pullman? Pullman's history, as many of you all know, growing up in the Chicago area, is rich. It is fully rich with the traditions of labor history, of labor strife, of the first model planned industrial town in America, of architecture, just a number of stories. And as we had a previous presentation, the Pullman Historic District is a National Historic Landmark District, which was designated in 1970, covering about 300 acres of land on Chicago's South Side. That is what we're looking at for the Pullman National Historical Park. So with that, I mean, you really get to see that from the reports that we've had from the National Park Service, the reconnaissance study, which came out in June 2013, that Pullman holds national significance, which is a strong criteria for National Park Service designation. And we are working with the community to ensure that the community is involved, that the people of metropolitan Chicago are involved, and that we continue to build as much information as possible to know exactly what it would mean to have a national park in Pullman, which would be the first national park in Chicago and the second national park site in the state of Illinois. So we've had 2 studies done so far over the last year, the National Park Service Reconnaissance Survey, as well as an economic impact study, which was commissioned by the National Park Conservation Association and several other organizations, including the city of Chicago. This Econs Study showed very strong numbers for the community. For areas of the south side of Chicago that lost industry several years ago, 3 decades ago, these numbers are very strong for what it could mean for reinventing Chicago, reinventing the south side of Chicago. 300,000 visitors by year 5. You're looking at $15 million in annual wages. This will go on to the next slide. I'll just keep going here. These are staffing numbers. I think this is a little bit more in detail, but this is what we're projecting. We're very modest with these numbers. We're not saying that these are pie in the sky numbers, but we're saying this is what we're expecting. About $15 million in annual wages, about 350 jobs created from increased tourism, from increased visitation, that 300,000 number, coming up from 50,000 currently. So there are still a ton of people who visit Pullman every year. Opportunities abound with the creation of a national park, which would be increased public transportation options, with the metro line that runs right there on the former Illinois Central, for the former Illinois Central line along Pullman. And I think it would create a great access and great opportunity for connecting the south side of Chicago to downtown and reinvigorating our regional connectivity with history. Our public campaign began in early 2013. If any of you all have seen this card, it started last year, and we started collecting a lot of signatures, a lot of information, a lot of contact information from folks all across the region. We started off in May 2013 at National Train Day, and so far we've collected about 3,000 of those postcards to show that, or to demonstrate that there is a strong amount of support within metropolitan Chicago for this national park. We've launched a Facebook page. This one says we have 1,100 likes, so that's an old one. Today we have about 1,600 likes on Facebook. If you have not liked the page, which is NP for Pullman, you can like us and just go on, and we would completely appreciate that support. Political support seated. This is from the bill introduction ceremony or press release, press conference in January. That's Lynn McClure, my boss, our regional director, Senator Durbin, Senator Kirk, and Congresswoman Robin Kelly seated, who introduced legislation to establish the Pullman National Historical Park. We've received editorial endorsements from the Chicago Sun-Times, Crane Chicago Business, and from the Chicago Tribune endorsing the idea of Chicago's first national park being the Pullman National Historical Park. That legislation that was introduced, as we continue, I'm moving faster than this now. The legislation that we've introduced came out in January 2014. We have 9 co-sponsors to date. The legislation was referred to the Natural Resources Committees in the House and the Senate, and we're expecting a hearing this spring. So as we go through that legislative process, we really have to remember, and we really have to be conscious about the political climate in Washington, D.C. So I built a little bit of time to talk about this. So we have a bill that's been introduced in Congress, not about Pullman, but about the Antiquities Act. Antiquities Act is legislation that was created in 1906, which allows for the president to designate national monuments, which would be a part of the national park system. There's a bill that will be voted on either today or tomorrow, which will remove the president's powers to designate those national monuments. We, National Parks Conservation Association, and several other green groups across the country are strongly opposed to that bill, and please contact your member of Congress to say that you are as well, because we should have more than one option to create national parks. So we are very appreciative for the support of Senators Dick Durbin, Mark Kirk, and Congresswoman Robin Kelly of the 2nd Congressional District in Illinois for introducing legislation to establish the Pullman National Historical Park. They've been very great partners in working with the community, with working with different groups of people to ensure that Pullman becomes Chicago's first national park. Another very strong thing that we really don't think about too much when we create these national parks is the strong marketing opportunities with groups that already exist. And that would be the I.M. Canal National Heritage Corridor, and that there are strong marketing opportunities between the national heritage areas, between the national park. And so when you have this national park established, you recognize the fact that these partnerships already exist across the country, and we can replicate those partnerships here in Illinois and do it 10 times better. And so we are very excited about the opportunity for having the Pullman National Historical Park being created, and the community is very excited about it as well. And so what we're looking for is for you to contact your members of Congress about that Antiquities Act legislation, but as well to tell them that you all support the legislation for the establishment of the Pullman National Historical Park, and that you want to see Illinois receive its 2nd national park site. So thank you all so much for your time and your opportunity, and I know that we are all getting ready for lunch, so that is the conclusion of my presentation.